Thank you for joining this morning. For anybody that does not know me, my name is Josh Funk. I'm the founder and current CEO of Rehab to Perform. I'm currently joining you from our Columbia office today. You may or may not be aware, we have 14 locations across the DMV. We've been doing these monthly workshops targeted around just honestly topics of conversation that we have as a team that we feel like benefit you all. And it's an opportunity to share best practices, potentially have constructive dialogue, and also hear from you all on what matters to guide future workshops. But the conversation today is going to surround a popular one in the PT field right now with regards to annual physicals. We are one of the only bigger healthcare professions that doesn't really have an annual checkup. And it's no secret that for many individuals, whether or not you're in the occupational space or the youth athletic space, these injuries cause significant time loss and financial costs as well. There are things that we can do to improve our lives, increase our independence, overall increase our movement efficiency, and ideally contribute to us being in a situation where our body is more resilient, it is more efficient, and it is more able to handle the stressors of life over the course of the lifespan, contributing to something that we talk about often now called health span. So the annual movement check is going to draw some parallels between dentistry, primary care, and ideally put you in a situation where maybe you're thinking differently about how to interact with a physical therapist. We proactively look at teeth. We also look at eyes with our optometrists, and we will regularly go in, or at least we should, for an annual physical with a primary care doc, looking at things like our blood, potentially diving into things like lipid metrics, things like hypertension, potentially hormone profile, and things that we, over the course of decades of research, have a better idea of determining what is quote unquote normal and what may fall outside of a realm of being acceptable. Movement, however, is something that we are only checking when something actually hurts. So from a physical therapy profession standpoint, we are asking, why do people interact with us only on a reactive basis and not potentially on a proactive basis to reduce the potential risk of something negative happening to us, whether or not it's just decreasing independence or potentially ending up with some kind of injury. 80% of adults experience back pain. This is the single biggest area of burden on the healthcare system as it relates to cost and money. It is also the single biggest driver of cost and money of time loss and money in the occupational space. Millions of people miss work every year due to things that could be addressed potentially through ergonomic considerations, workload considerations, or overall things with a little bit more information and preparation. People could potentially be put in positions to be successful with the work that they're being asked to do, and not having these time loss situations. Then if we take that from the occupational space to the playing field space, there is a growing body of research to support decreasing injuries in athletes with certain programs that are out there. We could talk about the FIFA 11, which is something in the soccer space where we know that if we're doing certain things with youth athletes, they're less likely to have lower body injuries. This saves the programs, universities, teams, and most importantly, the individual significant time and money. But this research and the conversation surrounding screening and assessment has not necessarily been drawn over the parallel between the youth athletic side or the college and professional athletic side to the adult population, to the general population. So the question that we're asking you today is, why are we not doing this for more people? Movement is the foundation. It is a significant part of your life. And for everybody who might have heard me say movement health, movement system, to define it, we are looking at that as specifically muscles, joints, tendons, and the balance between your muscular system and the nervous system, because we know that they are intricately linked with one another. The coordination of movement has feed-forward mechanisms that my brain sends a signal and my body ideally acts accordingly. I'm also in a situation sometimes where I need feedback mechanisms, where something happens externally and my body, muscles, tendons, joints are moving in coordination to respond to a certain external stimulus. But a movement system that is operating optimally is able to predict independence. It's able to predict longevity, especially as we look at certain things and they're linked to mortality, and overall resilience. An individual that has a robust movement system is going to be able to handle more things on a regular basis when compared to an individual who might not have as much of a robust movement system. But if you think about just daily life and the correlation to dependence or independence, stairs, transferring to the ground, carrying objects, long days on your feet, and we could even argue, for me, as I'm in a chair, getting in and out of a chair, those are things that should be very, very easy for us to do. They should be things that we are very efficient with, knowing that if it is hard for me to do them, I'm probably less likely to do them because they're going to come at a greater cost to me. I might not be able to go up the stairs anymore. I might need 2 handrails instead of 1 handrail. I might get stuck on the ground and never be able to leave the ground, and I might need assistance. I might not be able to carry all of the groceries from my grocery store trip. I might have to go multiple times back and forth. I might not be able to handle standing on my feet for longer than a couple minutes. And I might be stuck in a chair because I'm unable to get out of it. So if you think about your movement health over the course of us having more birthdays, it is incredibly important to us exploring and enjoying the world around us. If your movement efficiency drops, I want you to remember that it comes at a greater cost to your body. And as I mentioned with regards to dependence and independence, it is going to decrease your health span, which is your ability to match your movement capabilities with your ability to be on Earth. Ideally, we live a long, prosperous, fruitful, enjoyable life, and we have a sharp drop near the end of our life. We don't have the ability to live long, but then also not move well. We want to live long and move well, and that's the pairing with lifespan and health span. If you've been on one of our earlier workshops, we talked about VO2 max. VO2 max looks specifically at the efficiency of energy, your body's ability to utilize systems in it for energy production. Energy production and energy utilization can put you in a position where you are either fatiguing, having to do a significant amount of work, or you might be fatiguing very early, potentially during a relatively short walk. This is the mechanical parallel to that. So energy efficiency, looking at VO2 max. With an annual physical, we might be looking more at your mechanical or efficiency or movement competency. But again, if I have low level of movement competency, it increases the cost of moving. It puts myself in a situation where my weightlifter's out there. If you think about a 1 rep max, it's significantly difficult for me to get out of the chair. I go up a flight of stairs and I'm absolutely gassed and I can't do something for 30 minutes. I potentially can't carry things. I potentially always have to park at the front of a parking lot. I'm potentially having to think about not doing things, maybe not going to sporting events because of bleachers and people around me because I'm lacking confidence in my overall movement. But more efficient movers are going to often be in a position where they are going to be hurt less. They're able to overall accomplish more on a daily basis. They're going to age, at least with regards to physical capabilities, if we look at aging in terms of what we're physically able to do. And they're also going to be able to perform longer in the ways that matter to them. I think we can all agree, especially being the fact that we are, we have adults here. After you retire, you probably don't want to have a small world to operate in. So I always think about this personally as I'm about to hit 40, but I'm in a situation where at some point, work will not be as central in my life, and I will want to enjoy the world around me. However, if I do not put myself in a situation where my movement efficiency is a priority, I'm probably not going to be in a position where I'm going to be able to enjoy all the things that I thought I was looking forward to. From a physical therapy side, this is where we draw a parallel to one of the professions that's done the best with these proactive preventive checkups: dentists. Dentistry has done a tremendous job of convincing you that you need to go for a biannual checkup. You have a very, very clear cadence. You know what is expected of you. There are relatively simple tests. You get x-rays, you get a manual checkup. You're looking at pictures. They're talking to you about how things might feel, how things might look, how your teeth interact with one another. But they've sold you on the belief that early detection saves you money, knowing that if you address a problem while it's small, it most likely is going to lead to a lesser cost having to be allocated to fixing that problem, and also potentially putting yourself in a situation where you have less inconvenience. But overall, they've done a great job of creating this universal awareness that also has led to the population being universally compliant. This is where we feel that PT, physical therapy, is next. Your movement health should be thought of in parallel to your oral health, your eye health, and your overall internal system health that you already address with a primary care physician. A yearly checkup in particular is going to look at identifying weakness, gross asymmetries before they potentially become problematic for you. Knowing that oftentimes weakness can put us in a situation where we can't handle the physical stressors and could potentially put us at risk, given the fact that we might not be able to come up with strategies that allow us to do that efficiently or safely. Asymmetries are natural, but when we have these wide wide asymmetries, potentially outside of 90%, right? Outside of 80%, gross asymmetry, that also can be a risk factor. We can inform people about whether or not they're being relatively efficient with their daily movement as a result of an annual checkup. And we can also look at things like mobility, balance, and relative or absolute strength deficits early. One of the most important things that we can do as well is benchmark people year over year. We can look at your year over year changes, which could put you in a position where you're more aware of what you might have done in a previous year and how that might have contributed to more accelerated decline. But you don't necessarily need to be injured to benefit from learning more about movement health. You just need to be a human. And movement health could look different for different people at different ages, different capabilities. You would be able to streamline this to the individual. And you also could look at what is called demographic norms, because there are a lot of demographic norms that would allow you to, best determine where you might fall under your specific subset of the population. Things that your results can tell us. It can tell us your overall strength to weight capabilities. We will call that relative strength. A lot of people will think about weight room strength. That's more absolute strength. It's not to say that that doesn't potentially help you out, especially knowing that we are aware that muscle mass in itself is very protective for a lot of systems in our body. Muscle mass is also being linked to your health span and your lifespan, but relative strength dives more into the movement competency and our overall levels of movement efficiency. We can look at loading strategies. We can look at side-by-side loading strategies. If we get you on force plates, even if you were to do a sit to stand, we can look at how you might have, preferential strategies. That gross and relative symmetry part that we mentioned earlier, It's okay to have some symmetry, but if we have these gross asymmetries, it could potentially lead to problems for us. And then again, that big bucket term that we keep using, but we want to look at your overall level of movement efficiency. By doing this, we would know where you're at today. We would know what you need to focus on. It would allow us to inform you where your potential risk might lie. And it also, most importantly, gives you areas for opportunity. And I think this is the most important part. It's so noisy in media today, whether or not it's the news, social media, potentially you're going to a gym locally, you might not know what to focus on. This could be an opportunity for you to get a better idea on what is going to be a high return on investment in terms of what you'd be focusing on. Some reasons why people might never get one or never have thought about getting one before is they focus on PT as just being a reactive profession. I'm not injured, I feel fine, and I'll fix whatever when it really, really hurts. This is usually when people will think about coming to see us. I always joke, it's always the men that are more resistant to interacting with the healthcare system in general, but their arm will have to be falling off. And instead of addressing something when it's small, they will wait until things are, absolutely mission critical and significantly disruptive. But most people would be, kind of against learning about PT because they typically, again, associate it with needing an injury, needing a significant ailment, as opposed to being in a situation where they're looking to learn more regularly about their body to put themselves in the best possible position to be, again, not to beat this word over and over again, but as efficient as possible with themselves. If we take this to the athletic population, are the best movers the best weight room people? Very, very rarely. They're the most efficient movers. They move well in space. It takes them less energy to move and manipulate themselves through whatever the playing field or playing environment that they might be in. But some of the people that are giving us, excuses, it might be the same people that are giving excuses for skipping the dentist, skipping their annual physicals, skipping their optometrist, and overall avoid screenings. These are people that don't want to hear information that they potentially don't like to hear, or maybe they don't quite understand the value for that. But we're overall looking to educate you all to change trends and really get you thinking about physical therapy differently. Why are we built for this? We have a performance-based environment and we have performance-trained physical therapists. We can take you longer on a continuum of physical performance, physical activity, human movement. If you look at, how PT used to be viewed, it was, we're just going to return to life, right? We're just going to return to activities of daily function. They would regularly use the phrase ADLs. But we're in a situation where our company and the way that we do things, we've positioned ourselves to maybe not see you as frequently as other places, but we will see you out and make sure that you're in the best possible position with a reduced injury profile. We have a movement-first philosophy. This is paired with our education philosophy and the fact that we believe education is incredibly empowering. But if we compare the education part with a movement-first philosophy, we put you in the driver's seat to take more control, knowing the fact that movement doesn't necessarily require us. You have a better idea of how to move, how to potentially progress your movement, programming, and ideally put yourself in a position where you're performing better as a result of interacting with us, but you don't need that frequent hand-holding. We do a ton of evidence-based testing. This is where we've gone from time-based physical therapy to more criteria-based physical therapy, more competency, more capacity, more checklists, things where we say, did you pass the test? And once you pass the test, you've earned the right to progress. You've earned the right to move on. This goes hand in hand with more recent, some of the additions we have with regards to tech-enabled tracking. So we're able to look at technology and we're able to compare you to, again, demographic-based norms. We're also able to compare you to yourself previously. And it's all, right there on the iPad. At the end of the day, we have a very hybrid clinical and performance environment. We will say that we are where healthcare meets fitness. And we feel, again, that we're very, very much positioned to put people in a place where they're able to focus on what we feel like is one of the most important things when it comes to their health, but it is their movement. Because at the end of the day, we don't just treat injuries at Rehab to Perform. We try to create better movers for life, knowing that if we have better movers, they're going to be able to perform in the ways that matter to them. So putting it all together, you already get annual checkups for teeth, eyes, heart, and blood. Why not PT? We feel like it's time, knowing that this area, in terms of the burden on the healthcare system, continues to increase. We should be viewing this as an opportunity to address things upstream, to reduce downstream costs, to reduce time loss, to reduce inconvenience, disruption to our life, and overall put ourselves in a position where, probably more importantly, we're able to enjoy our lives as long as possible, because we are as efficient as possible, which leads us to being as independent as possible throughout the course of the lifespan. But with that being said, thank you all for joining me today. It's a perfect opportunity to have you have any questions that you might have had during the presentation answered. Oh man, Fred, I'm putting you on the spot. Come on, I got to get one question.
Okay. How, if I come in for an assessment, how long does that take?
It'll take no longer than an hour. It should take about 50 minutes. And then you would get a follow-up email notifying you of your results and potentially giving you recommendations depending on where you tiered in certain areas. So
that was my follow-up. After that, do I get a written, what do I need to do next?
Yep, you would get an email. There would be a, kind of a template in terms of priorities, and there would be links with follow-up education to further inform you of the areas that we feel like would be best for you to focus on. Again, it's an opportunity to cut through noise. It's a very noisy world in terms of what to work on from a health and wellness standpoint. So ideally, we've positioned ourselves to have the kind of trust where if we tell you these things are worth focusing on, you can kind of cut through, and it kind of allows you to limit the things that you might be trying to do on a regular basis, knowing that sometimes without clarity, we might be focusing on a very, very broad spectrum of things, not knowing that we might have already accumulated certain prerequisites in certain area where it's like, hey, you're doing really good over here. You might not need to focus on that as much. It's in more of maintenance mode, and it would really help you if you dove deep on this particular topic. And that's the kind of information that we're looking to really help you out with.
Hello?
Sheldon, go for it.
Hi, this is Shelly Pitterman. I'm 68. I live in Annapolis, and I've been going to see my doctor at R2P now over the last couple of years for different things, and I'm extremely happy with the services I get there, the reception and the billing and all that. Everything is just the way I like it. That being said, I'm very interested in this movement thing. I had a laminectomy a year ago, and I would like to have that kind of benchmarking as I approach a new decade, so to speak. So is this a service that Amber would provide to me? Do I need to ask her for a movement test? Does it cost extra? Tell me, how do I go about getting this done?
Absolutely. You will have all of this information in a follow-up email, and it is something that you will see us talking about more and more over the next 6 weeks leading up to the start of the new year. But it is a wellness service. It is something that at this point in time, insurance doesn't value it in the way that it values the other annual checkup. So it would be something that would be out of pocket.
Okay.
But yeah, Amber would be able to do this for you. And again, it'd be an hour long.
Okay. Excellent. Yep. Well, I'll talk to her about it on Thursday when I see her. Thank you very much.
Yep. And sorry, Stacy, you had a great comment. I wasn't sure if you wanted to elaborate at all, but HSA funds, yes. So this is where we talk about tapping into connections. HSA funds are always strengthened by a letter of medical necessity. So that is something that we would be able to work with people on ensuring that a letter of medical necessity strengthened their ability to use their HSA. And ideally, we don't want anybody to run into any issues with using HSA funds. And I think that at least I'm optimistic, but the use of HSA funds from here on out, I think we should be we should lead to a more accepting and less hoops to jump through kind of, regulatory environment. I think that's the direction that we're heading in. But yes, an LMA, obviously if you were already working with a primary care, we have a good network of people, but the LMA always strengthens your ability to use HSA funds for something like this.
And could you give us a rough idea of the out-of-pocket cost?
Everything for an hour at Rehab to Perform is $150. So it would be no different than our out-of-pocket physical therapy appointment. Great question. As a professional ballet dancer, with this annual checkup, be able to assess strengths and weaknesses that I have for my field of work. So running assessments are an area that we have seen people engage with us more often over the years. And I would argue that just over the healthcare landscape as a whole, running assessments, running analysis have been an area where people have been more proactive. You could see some specificity with this into other areas depending on your needs. I think the thing that we will say is with regards to the annual checkup, there's an overwhelming majority of things that we would like to look at for everybody. And then the goal is to make sure that there are different tracks that are specific to the individual. So that's where like the intake and the form that people fill out prior to them coming in allows us to individualize and personalize the deliverables. But we still do want to look at certain things that we view as being foundational for people. So if you think about a pyramid, a majority of people would get the same base of the pyramid, knowing that we feel like this is like the bell curve in terms of what's important for everybody. And then there would be certain things that would be more specific. Foreshadowing already, there will be a youth injury risk analysis or youth athlete assessment that will have different things that it needs. We will be asking people to do more plyometrics, more power, more things that involve a little bit more of a muscular force for that particular population, knowing that their demands are typically different than the active adult. But we could have some adults that are in a situation where maybe they're doing more sport-oriented activity. So the benefit of this is, okay, if you have one thing that you have that is foundational to everybody, is at least you're getting a lot of this data from a lot of people that is similar, and that it does allow you, let's say we're individualizing the 1/5 to a quarter to a third to meeting the specific demands of people based on what they're doing. So hopefully that answers your question. We would be doing a lot of overlap, but yes, we could be doing things that are also specific based on particular needs. Anybody, other questions, thoughts?
I have a question and a thank you to you guys. Rich, when he was in Bethesda, helped me with a double knee replacement. And I think he thought I was going to pass out half the time, but he really got me through it brilliantly. And now having a repercussion on one of them and working with you guys again with Lauren now in Bethesda, who is also fabulous. How, let's say the treatment needs to extend, because I've gone now to once a week. Can you guys put requests into the insurance company that maybe she needs a little bit more time, or is that something I just need to go back to the doctor and have them issue another round of PT or whatever?
It always is strengthened by having, in your particular situation, it might be a surgeon communicate unique circumstances. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, we do our best efforts to, in situations like that, provide paperwork, and sometimes we have to get on a phone call with somebody that represents the insurance company. But it can be a combined and collective effort. But sometimes it's imperfect. And yeah, we do our best. Despite the information we provide, sometimes they say no still. So.
Okay, well, I will give the surgeon a jingle and make sure Lauren knows to maybe expect their call. Thank you.
Yes, we don't have to get into too much right now, but I'll foreshadow a little bit for Rich. Rich has got a very, very cool opportunity he'll have in the next 2 or 3 months. So I know that he's not in Bethesda anymore. We've had a migration of people moving from Montgomery County over into Virginia recently, which has been a little bit tough, I know, but he does have a really cool opportunity that I'm excited for him. That he's definitely earned it.
Well, I was torn because I live in Montgomery County, but I work in Virginia. So I almost decided to travel to Tyson's, but in the beginning of the rehab, just didn't want to put my husband through having to drag me there twice a week. But thank you.
Sheldon, go ahead.
Yeah, it's me again. Just a quick follow-up to the other question. I think there should be a promotional arrangement of less than $150 for out-of-pocket costs for this, at least to promote it, to get us, if you will, hooked into an annual or semi-annual cycle. Because $150 for a test that we don't know what it's going to deliver is a bit steep. Just the last word from my side. Give it some thought for Christmas, the beginning of the year, or whatever.
So you already read the email that's going out.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And you'll see, you'll see some give the gift of R2P campaigns. So there's definitely, we're on the same page. Promise you.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Little fun thing to mess around with. And I always like telling people this, especially when we're talking about movement efficiency. Fred, I will come back to you. I got one real quick because some people might want to pop off. Everybody needs to test your ability to get to the floor and off the floor. You need to test your ability to get out of a chair using only one leg. And you should test your ability to go up the stairs, skipping steps without using your hands. Those are very, very quick hitters with regards to just movement efficiency. And it's not to say that there's not more, but should those be a little bit more challenging, this would be a good place to at least start. So Fred, go ahead.
Well, personal note for Stacy, I would very much encourage you to get the assessment. Been running for 45 years, thought I knew everything, and yes, tested very well on certain things, but others showed some major deficiencies, something to work on. It's well worth the time and effort to get through it.
Fred, you did the running assessment with Katie?
No, I just did the movement assessment.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you went up. Yeah. Yep. All right. If nobody has any questions, again, you'll have a follow-up email that'll go out from Matt. It'll just be more information on just what to expect. Obviously, it's something where there is a time associated with being with you, but the biggest thing is the benefit of information that you wouldn't normally have, and hopefully that's the inherent value. And then I think it's especially time relevant because we got New Year's resolutions right around the corner. Allows you to kind of lock into something that based on the team at R2P is something that would be a high value for you to focus on. But Casey, go ahead.
I do have a question. So if we do the evaluation and you find those weak points, what would be the next step? Would we be able to take that information to our doctor and get you know, a prescription for physical therapy, or would it just be all on our own after that?
It really depends on the direction you want to go in. Sometimes we provide people with information and they already have a personal trainer. They're already doing group training here. And then it at least gives them like, hey, you didn't do particularly well here. Here's a list of
the things to focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we're trying to streamline like your supplemental focuses. And we might also give you information that you're like, oh, wow, I'm actually really good on that. I know that society is telling me I should focus on that, but I'm good at it. Like, I don't need to focus on this. Like, so then, you know, we all have limited time, you know? So part of this is like, you know, if you're already good at stuff, just maintain it, check in on it, but don't spend like, you know, a whole workout 12-week program centered around X, Y, and Z or, you know,
Okay. Thank you.
If you want to improve your efficiency and health span, it kind of narrows the things that you might just be focusing on in general.
Right. That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Like the goal is to just make your decision-making process easier in terms of what matters and what to focus on.
Right.
With whoever and wherever you go. It could be us. It could be the gym that you go to. You know, everybody is going different places for their, you know, their fitness routine. You could be doing different stuff at your home gym, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.